Good morning, Matt. How you doing today? Good to see you here. That means it's working. This is Jim Nielsen, and I want to welcome everybody to On the Bench. And I'm actually on the road. So came down to Twin Falls to help my son move into his new home. My son just bought his first home, so pretty excited about the opportunity that we have to help them move into their new home. And so it's kind of a relaxed day, and we're going to be visiting with some good friends of mine. Excuse me, Rob Zabel and Brian Alfi. They are two wrestling coaches over on the west side. Rob coaches at Squalicum, and Brian coaches at Edmonds Woodway. And they have been running a wrestling camp called Center Circle Wrestling Camp, and we're gonna talk about that and how that all started. It's one of the largest, fastest growing individual wrestling camp on the west side of the mountains. So it's kind of a cool thing. I want to thank some new sponsors that we have. Thesis Merchant Services is a new sponsor. We also have Frederick's Jewelers in Moses Lake. Nick Criscolio. I went to school with Nick, and he's a new sponsor of us with Frederick's Jewelers. And also Boost Mobile is sponsoring On the Bench with Big Jim as well. So I want to thank all those sponsors who have jumped on board. And for any of you who are interested in having me market your business, please get in touch with me. I would appreciate it. Good to see you, Juan. Good to see you, Sammy. Glad you're here. We're going to be talking some wrestling today, so this is going to be fun. Really quick, a bunch of birthdays, and there's some wrestlers in this birthday list as well. So I want to some old trainer friends of mine. My first college trainer, Phil Lucky, is 77 today, and a good friend, Ron Carroll, at Arkansas State University, the head trainer there. It's his 67th birthday today. So also Todd Voth is having a birthday. Happy birthday, Todd. Hope you have a great day. Chael Sonnen of MMA, and I know Chael from Greco-Roman wrestling trips. Happy birthday, Chael. Another wrestler that I got to know on some trips, Michael Ellsworth. It's his birthday day. Happy birthday, Michael. And then another wrestler, Sean Burton, who was a state champion, wrestled in the Spokane area, and I think it was Deer Park. He wrestled at Deer Park. But Sean Burton's turning older today. Also, Nick Cobb is another year older today, and as well as Christopher Perez. Happy birthday, Christopher. And then Kathy Kendrick, worked with her in the bracing business. Happy birthday, Kathy. Hope you're having a great day. And also one of my favorite teammates, Rick Ambrosi. Happy birthday, Rick. Hope you have a wonderful day celebrating your birthday. So I wanted to wish all those people happy birthday. We're going to turn down our volume is what we're going to do, so we're not disturbed here as we visit with some good friends. The first guy I'm going to bring on is Brian Alfi. He is the head wrestling coach at Edmonds Woodway. And in talking with Brian, Brian's always been a really good guy, and I really enjoyed being a competitor against him. But a wonderful guy, and he's one of my guests today. And we're going to pull him in right now here on the phone as we're waiting on Rob Zabel to pop in here in just a few minutes. So, good morning, Andy. How you doing today? Oh, you know what?
Brian Alfi.
Huh, got his voice. I was trying to call you, Brian. I guess you're watching the show on your cell phone. So when you're ready to come in, I'm glad you're doing great. You're at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Great wrestling the other night at Beat the Streets in LA. That was Hollywood versus Bollywood. That was a great show that you guys put on. Some tough competition going up against the United States, and your Indian team did a remarkable job. It was fun to watch, and I'm glad you were able to get back to the States and also to have lots of fun. So let's see when Rob's gonna. Alrighty. So first off, what I wanted to do was much love, Jimmy. Good deal. Awesome. I'm glad you feel that way, Andy. While I'm waiting on Rob to pop in, I wanted to give some kudos to some of our newest advertisers. So first off, I wanted to thank the company that I work with, Thesis Merchant Services, able to provide merchant services to everybody here in the Columbia Basin, and I'm able to do this anywhere. But Thesis Merchant Servicing is a way to combat or to be able to fight back against merchant service companies that are taking advantage of you. So if you need help there, please give me a call and we'll help you out there. Also, I wanted to thank. Go here, Frederick's Jewelers. I went to school with Nick, and he is home and is making wonderful jewelry. And he takes your family heirlooms, and he's able to make these things that are just absolutely beautiful and something that you can keep in your family forever. So go see Nick down at Frederick's Jewelers in Moses Lake, and you can 208 West 3rd Avenue. You can call Nick at 765-6331, and he can help you with all of your jewelry needs. Let me find you. I don't see you, Rob. You're not on my list. Let me see if I can. I'm not seeing you on my list, Rob. So I just invited you. There we go. Hopefully you can find. There you go. Here we go. To join us here on the bench with Big Jim, and we're going to have a nice little visit. Good morning, Rob. How you doing today?
Morning, Jim. How are you?
Awesome. So, just not to kid anybody, we've been on the phone already this morning. So,
very true.
We've already had a great conversation.
Forgive me. I might have to get up a couple times to take care of the baby, but I'll take you with me.
That's fine. Just so everybody knows, Rob has the cutest little 6-month-old baby, Mosley. Adorable
Mosley,
name.
That's right.
Mosley. That's a
Thank you.
Adorable name. So, you're getting ready because this is probably a year-round project. This Center Circle Wrestling Camp that you and Brian Alfi have started, and I put it in the main post. The link to the website, the Facebook page.
Thank you.
You betcha. And the particulars is July 21st to July 26th at Meridian
Right.
High School this year. Let's.
It's also, sorry to interrupt you.
That's
It's
right.
also at Meridian Middle School.
Oh.
We got to the point where we decided camp has grown large enough that we're going to separate boys and girls entirely. We're going to run 2 camps at the same time. Boys will be at the high school, girls will be at the middle school, and we will shuttle counselors back and forth between the 2 schools. They're about 1.5 miles apart. It's going to be exciting.
Good deal. That's
yeah.
That's the fact that you've expanded that, because in all honesty, girls wrestling has become very, very competitive, and I can hear Mosley. She's wanting you.
Yeah.
I want to dial back the clock a little bit, find out a little bit about you and Brian. And Brian, you can call my cell anytime and join the conversation. But when did you start wrestling? When did this your career begin?
I was definitely a late start to the wrestling community. I didn't start wrestling until after my freshman year of high school. And I really was a kid that needed some foundation and some direction. And I was pulled into the sport by an older brother that was in it, as well as I had multiple cousins that had far more experience than I did. And it was something where once I got into it, I was hooked. I couldn't get away from it. I also had the tremendous blessing of I had a dad that never cared if I won or lost. My dad was fond of saying to me, I don't care what happens in a wrestling match. Spending 2.5 hours a day with those men is going to make you a better person. And yeah, right.
Great
like
attitude.
I
Great
couldn't have.
attitude.
Right. Yeah. My dad was a basketball guy, so he had no clue what wrestling was. And he just loved the sacrifice involved. So big support. And it's been a lifestyle for me ever since. I've been away from wrestling for, I think, 1 year since I was a sophomore in high school.
And that's probably why you and I ended up becoming friends. I think,
right.
And was I a referee when we first met?
How
did we first
meet? I honestly don't recall our first interaction. I just recall several real genuine, heartfelt conversations over the years. I think we both have the same mentality about helping kids and making kids better people. Everybody's goal is to win matches, but it's not like the end result. And I think you gravitate towards people who have that same outlook, and I think that's why you and I have gravitated towards each other.
No question. I couldn't agree with you more.
Right.
But I maybe it was in the Marysville gym. I don't know. Maybe
it might have been. Yeah.
They're at the premier Marysville Pilchuck Premier Wrestling Tournament. But I've always really enjoyed our conversations and the fact that you and I have become good friends.
I agree.
Let's. So you wrestled in high school. Where'd you go to school to become a teacher?
So, wrestling had a bittersweet ending for me as a competitor. I was not by far, the top shelf guy. I was probably in my day at my best, a fringe state participant guy. And in my senior year, I tore up my knee and wasn't able to wrestle. It was a week before our first duel. And so, I kind of prepared me for the future. And at the end of the year, I know my high school coach said, you'd be really good working with kids and getting involved. And that was all the prodding I needed, right? Like I looked up to him and
he set you
I
on
started
your way.
coaching the middle school. Yeah, I started coaching the middle school. And then from there, I was coaching the middle school for about 4 years while I was doing community college and working. And then I went and went to Washington State University and coached at Pullman High for 2 years.
Cool.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then once I left there, I moved back home to Whatcom County, and I spent a year at Linden as an assistant coach. And then the same man who kind of set me on my way and prodded me, had become principal of a school in Snohomish of the freshman campus. And he called and said that they had a job opening and that he could give me an interview, but that was about the extent of his help. And I ended up there and been coaching ever since.
And loving it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is definitely a labor of love.
Because when you figure out the pay, I remember one year Jamie and I figured out he figured it out.
Right.
It was like 17 cents an hour or something ridiculous. But
and it's not even like the active time you're in the room or with kids.
Right.
It is how much time are you spending consumed with the sport, just thinking about it. Like,
right.
Am I home, but am I really present? Because I'm thinking about this kid's got to work on a single leg defense. This kid's got to figure out how not to get pushed off the mat, right? Like it's all consuming.
And sleepless nights and
man,
the long weekends, and I do remember something that I cherish is that once I retired, I was able to watch my daughter play basketball because when she was a freshman, she played varsity and they went to the state tournament, and I did get to see her go play at the state tournament, but before that, during the season, we were wrestling, and I didn't get to see her much. But after her last couple of years of high school, I was able to see her play basketball, and it's something when you're with your kids, that's something that's awfully special. So
it is definitely a balance for sure. I totally agree with you. It's pretty cool when I'm at a point in my life where my family wants to be involved in the wrestling program and wants to be involved in coaching. I've got not just Mosley, but I got a soon-to-be teenager. She's going to be 13 in a couple months, and she loves that Dad still coaches. And so
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, has she ever shown an interest enough to put some wrestling shoes on herself?
No. Piper doesn't have any interest in wrestling, but she loves being the manager and having a relationship with the boys and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's good. I had a daughter that was a manager, and hey, if you don't mind, let's see this beautiful little baby. Oh my gosh, she's gorgeous, and the blue eyes.
Say hi, Mosley.
She is beautiful. That'll be a big winner right there.
Right. Yeah.
So now you have a 6-month-old and you have a 13-year-old. That changes things. It changes things in life, doesn't it?
It does. It does. My soon-to-be 13-year-old was pretty adamant about. She wasn't incredibly excited to be a big sister, which was surprising to me. And when we'd had a conversation about why, she said, Dad, I've had a really good run as an only child. And I was like, she wasn't ready to start sharing Christmas and all those events. But now that Mosley's here, she's head over heels in love with her.
That's awesome. My wife and I, when we were driving down here yesterday, she was watching some videos that she has on her iPad. And she came across the one where my oldest son, Andrew, and his wife videoed them telling their 2 oldest kids that they were going to have another little baby.
Man.
When they told them that it was going to be a boy, Eden cried and Calden was really excited. So no, it's breaking that news to your older kids that you're going to have another baby. Can be met differently, but I'm glad Piper's happy with the little baby sister. So
it's great now.
So I've said this before here on the show on the bench with Big Jim that wrestling is a very special sport, and it's consumed a lot of my life, and it's made me a better person, I believe. It's given me so many opportunities, and I don't want to belittle it or anything, but I talked about wrestling because it is a great sport. And
Right.
You and Brian Alfi, you've been competing friends. You guys have competed
Right.
against each other for years now because he coaches at Edmonds Woodway, and you were
Right.
at Snohomish for a long time. And that
Yeah.
wasn't the same league, but you guys were close enough that you guys saw each other at tournaments.
Well, yeah, we were both in Wesco, but he was 3A and I was 4A.
4A, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and I could talk about Brian forever. They had a kid this year on the Orca team that came in the Thursday before, Grayson Lecomte.
Lecomte.
Oh,
awesome kid.
What a great kid. And to come in the last minute because we had a kid that was sick, and, he put it out all on the line. And, I love the fact that his family was, very supportive, and the fact that he would do that, and he had been wrestling, but still, when hey, 2 days you're going to wrestle the best kid in Oregon and the best kid in California,
right?
But I'm glad he came, and I got to meet him. But
yeah.
So you and Brian are buddies, and so
right.
Tell us the story of what you guys were talking about or discussing when you came up with the idea of the Center Circle Wrestling camps.
Well, it kind of was born out of when I left Snohomish. I left to move back to Bellingham to move home to be closer to some aging grandparents and my family. That was the only time I was ever going to leave Snohomish, was to come back home. And in that time, that was the 1 year off from wrestling that I had. And Brian called, and he had some negative experiences, or not negative experiences, but maybe some less than satisfactory experiences at a wrestling camp with his program. And he started kind of working on me about, would you be interested in starting a camp with me? I think if we start a camp, we could do these things. And that's part of the nature of coaching too, is you get into coaching, not just because you want to help people, but I think all really successful coaches have a little bit of an ego where they can look at things and say, I can do it better than that guy.
Yeah.
I can do it better than that guy. And so it took probably a month or two for Brian to convince me that, this was something that I wanted to do. And we had a couple of things that, we had to iron out, but ultimately we jumped in and said, we're going to do it. We're probably not going to make, any money for a couple of years, if at all, if ever, because that's really never been the goal, was to make money. We want our camp to be as affordable as possible. We're more about providing the experience for kids. And there's a lot of people out there right now that promote their camps as the best camp in Washington and everything. And that's great. I don't know if we're the best camp, but we're trying as best we can every year to get better and to do things right, and to provide some things that kids can't get anywhere else.
Well, just your list of the clinicians that you've brought in. I mean, Isaac Martinez, a national champion, a multi-time finalist. He's big time on the USA scene now. Colin Moore last year. Ohio State took second this year. He's been a stud 97-pounder for Ohio State. And I'll be honest with you, full disclosure, not Ohio State fan. But when Colin came to camp, and our couple Moses Lake kids came back, they said great instruction from him.
Yeah.
And
but we've also had Seth Gross, NCAA national champion.
Yeah.
We've had Darian Cruz, national champion from Lehigh a couple years ago. In 3 years, Miles Martin has been here, national champion. I think in 3 years we've put on the mat 4 or 5 national champions at camp, and that's part of the goal. Is that we have a lot of really good things going here in Washington. I had a really great conversation with Kevin Roberts at the state tournament, talking about his transition from Oregon to Washington this year. And Kevin said, by far, top to bottom, wrestling in Washington is way tougher than it is in Oregon, which surprised me. I was kind of floored by that statement. I expected the other way around. And Kevin made a comment that he thought that we had some really good coaches in Washington and coaches that just got more out of kids maybe. And so I was surprised by that. And he based that on his experience in Oregon and also his experience in this 1 year in Spokane in Washington wrestling. What Oregon has that Washington doesn't is it has some top level elite college programs. It has really good college wrestling. We don't have that here in Washington. We have some college programs. We don't have a Division I. We don't have a Division II. So part of our goal is to bring those kids in so that our kids can see that's what a D1 kid looks like. That's what a D2 kid looks like. And that's really important, that it's not just we're bringing in coaches. We're bringing in almost kids that are close to their peer level. It says, you're close. If you do this a little bit better, you're going to get where you want to go.
And
that happened for a couple of kids.
And that's
a couple of years ago. Sorry, quick story. A couple of years ago,
I want you to share this. This is a
couple of years ago.
For
before I started Center Circle, I was running a different camp called Session 3, and I made a really good friend named John Trenge through this camp, and John comes to all of our camps now. John and I were talking last night, and John got to talking with a Washington kid named Jeremy Golding, and
another good kid.
Yeah, love him like a brother. And John told Jeremy, you're not just like Washington good. You're good enough to wrestle at D1. And at the time, Jeremy had just wrapped up his NIC career and was kind of deciding what to do with the rest of his academics. And I think at that time, Jeremy was pretty close to giving up on wrestling. And when John, who's a 2-time finalist, says, "You're good, you're D1 good," it lit a fire in Jeremy. And he went out and he finished his last 2 years at Purdue, graduated with a degree, and wrestled in some of the biggest venues in our country.
Yeah,
which is awesome for a kid from Washington. Awesome for any kid, actually.
It's, having had that opportunity, I wrestled in Gallagher Arena against Tom Erickson when BYU dueled Oklahoma State, and I get goosebumps thinking about it. I mean, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. And,
that's awesome.
1987. This is before a lot of folks were born, but that opportunity to be able to do that, because we don't have a D1 program in the state. When I left to go to college, Washington State had a program. Eastern Washington had a program. I even think Washington still had a program, but it wasn't very much longer after that it got rid of it. But and to see all these programs leave, that's taken away opportunity for kids to be able to go on and continue the wrestling. It's been heartbreaking, and the fact that you're a different angle of trying to give these kids an opportunity to see what these college kids are like. That's a great attitude and a great philosophy. And now, you and Brian started this conversation 5 years ago. This will be your 4th year of hosting Center Circle Wrestling Camp. It's July 21st to July 26th at Meridian High School. Last year it was at Oak Harbor?
Right. Yes, it was at Oak Harbor last year.
This year it's at Meridian, and you're also splitting it up where there's a complete girls camp and a complete guys camp. And give us an idea of the kid. You got 2 kids coming in from Wyoming, right? So far?
We've got two national qualifiers coming in from Oregon. We're getting ready to just start releasing more names of kids that we have signed up as counselors. We want to make sure that all those kids are locked in, and kids are saying, yes, we want to come, but we want to make sure we have a concrete answer, and we don't want to advertise anybody before they're fully committed. But we're We're probably going to have a couple kids from Wisconsin this year, it looks like, a couple from Penn State, maybe one or two from University of Minnesota. We're working on a number of things right now. But we hope in the next week or two that we will start announcing all of those names. And our counselor list comes up, and we post them on Instagram and on Facebook. We try to get videos out of the counselors talking about them coming out, but we're not quite there yet. It's interesting in this year that a lot of our kids, which is awesome at the same time, a lot of the college kids are looking at qualifying for world teams. So they're looking at the end of the month being in Vegas. So it's really hard for them to commit to camp at this point.
A week.
So we're kind of taking it slow at this point.
Okay. Now, Chris Bono is a good friend of mine. So if you need a connection there, let me know. Because Wisconsin has Chris has really brought a big spark to them. He was a huge factor in what
for sure
Seth did at South Dakota, and he's going to make Wisconsin a powerhouse here in the future.
Yeah. I was texting with Seth this morning, and you and I were talking. I wonder if it couldn't be that Seth just magically appears on that Wisconsin roster next year, being in the transfer portal and everything.
You know what? I didn't even think about that, but that would be where I would think he would want to go, because two of his big-time coaches were there in South Dakota with him. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting Andy Cook just asked if you're going to have any specific women counselors.
We will have specific women counselors. Last year we brought down Justina DeStasio from Simon Fraser, who was a world champion, and we're talking with a couple other ladies at this point, and so they're also looking at a number of qualifiers as well. So some of those negotiations have taken a little bit longer, but we will definitely have women counselors for sure. We had, I believe, 3 or 4 last year.
That's good, and that'll take that off. That'll help. When the girls
a separate plug, if I may, Jim.
Sure.
A separate plug. Next weekend at Edwards Woodway High School, Olympic champion Helen Morales is going to be there, giving on a free clinic with donations to benefit the Hood family from Edmonds Woodway. And if you don't know that story, get on Facebook and find out what's going on with Helen Morales coming to Edmonds Woodway.
And give me the date again on that.
I believe it's next Saturday. I don't have it in front of me, but it's next weekend, and
is it this coming?
It's pretty. I believe it's this Saturday.
Okay, that's like the
and that information is going to be on Facebook and Instagram.
And she's a wonderful young lady, Helen. Great representative for women's wrestling, and
totally agree.
That'll be great for Edmonds Woodway, the Hood family there. Now, and I think you may have shared some of this, but your motivation to do all this was to provide opportunity for these high school kids to get to the next level. And do you feel, looking back, I think you were going to mention a story about this, but looking back, are you seeing kids that are ending up on the podium, or are you seeing kids that have been at your camps that are come back and have said, "Hey, appreciate your efforts"? And
we've had a number of state champions that have been in our camp, a lot of state placers. Our camp has grown. We used to have the numbers. After year 1, we ran the numbers. It was something like, again, don't quote me on this, but it was something like 30% of our campers qualified for the state tournament. And we've had a number of state champions. And I don't want that to sound like we created these state champions. All we did was we took talented kids and we worked with them for a week and hopefully showed them a path to improving their wrestling skills. and made them some contacts. We've certainly had kids that have gone on to wrestle in college that came through our camp. But again, I don't feel like that's something that we are responsible for. So much of that is the kids' motivation and the kids' drive. We're just trying to give kids more tools. But yeah, we've had very, very successful results from kids who attended our camp.
Now, this leads me to my next question. It's not just for kids that are, have been wrestling for a long time.
Oh, no.
You guys are able to coach the brand new kids. So this isn't something where you're going to throw a brand new kid into the lion's den with a bunch of seasoned kids, but you can teach all levels at your camp, right?
Right. Our camp is more age specific than it is talent specific. Our kids, we certainly are going to have some hammers in the room. We're going to have some kids that are absolute studs and state champions. They've been there for years, and they've been there before, and they're going to be back. But we've also had kids who showed up after their first year of high school wrestling, and they get stuff from camp, and they grow as athletes and grow as people every bit as much as those other guys do. And that being said, I think that that's a valuable experience too. You really don't know what it takes to be a state champion or to be the best until that guy puts his hands on you or that gal puts their hands on you, and you feel what a state champion wrestler wrestles like.
And that's really important, because if they haven't experienced that in a controlled setting, it can be pretty daunting on a mat. But at a camp,
I got you.
At a camp, it really doesn't. There's no wins or loss records. There's no.
Right.
You're risking nothing. Just taking advantage of the experiences is what's important. And I was just thinking the same thing. One of my friends, he coaches down at Kamiakin. He said he wanted to accommodate you on you managing your daughter and trying to do this interview at the same time. I was thinking the exact same thing, Ryan.
Oh.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because you are doing a great job being a dad. I love seeing.
Oh, thanks.
And I appreciate you. This is your Wednesday of spring break, and you're here entertaining me and my following, or the following of On the Bench.
No, this is fun. Thanks for having us.
I'm glad. You won over Brian, because we had some technical difficulty with Brian on the Facebook page, but you and Mosley are much better looking than Brian is. And Brian, I know you're watching. I love you. But Rob wins out.
Mosley wins out. If I'm better looking than Brian, that's an indictment on Brian.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, not me. But yeah, Mosley, she's very adorable. You're gonna need a shotgun here. Well, you probably already have one for Piper. But
yeah.
Have you looked into the future on? You guys are both young, and you're both you've been doing this a while, but you're both still young. And, look
right
when I compare you to myself. Have you looked at the end goal? Have you seen the light at the end of the tunnel? Or are you guys just taking this 1 year at a time? You're enjoying it. It's not. It's hopefully it's not costing you money, but are you seeing that you're going to continue to do this?
So I think that is really a life challenge at this point. Is that as wrestling coaches, as wrestling people. We're always looking ahead. What's next? And we often don't enjoy the moment that we're in right now. And I find that that's something that's maybe not exclusive to wrestling people, but it's certainly something that is a huge part of the wrestling community, specifically amongst the coaches. you just talk to coaches and you ask them about their team, and how many of them are saying, oh, we're just really young this year, wait for 2 years. And so I'm in the process of, I want to enjoy this year. I want to enjoy this camp. And I want my experience to be, I put everything I had into this camp to making it the best camp, the most challenging camp, and best experience I can for a kid. And then when camp's over, I'm going to evaluate. And I know Brian's of the same mindset. I'm going to evaluate what are things we did well, what are areas we need to improve. Now let's go about setting in motion things or a plan to make this camp better. And so we're constantly at this point, I guess, looking ahead, we're constantly trying to grow and improve the camp for kids who are coming, and not trying too hard to look ahead, trying to live and experience each camp by itself. Okay, well,
that's good. That tells me that you're gonna keep doing this because it's something that you're able to do, and it's during the summer. You love this sport. You want to get back to it.
Right.
It's done a lot for you, and I can understand that answer. Right now you guys are just trying to nail down guys that are the counselors coming in, and you're doing the logistics of trying to get it. Now, changing from Oak Harbor to Meridian, is that a more convenient, or what was the decision there?
Well, last summer, Brian and I had some real challenges on our family end with camp, and if you were at camp, you know well and those stories very well. But being at Meridian is closer to home for me, as well as Meridian is kind of a dream scenario in that the leadership of Meridian School District, which is a mile and a half outside of Bellingham, they're wrestling people. The superintendent was a former wrestling coach. The assistant superintendent's a former wrestling coach. The head of maintenance is a state finals level official. It is a dream scenario. We ask for something and they come running. And they are excited for us to be there. So we're glad to be back at Meridian. That's where our camp started. And we're glad. Not that Oak Harbor wasn't outstanding, but right. Meridian is definitely a great opportunity for us.
And the people that do your catering, that cater the meals for the kids, is a business there in Meridian, right?
Yeah, we work with a business just in between Linden and Bellingham, and all of our meals are privately catered. Is in terms of there's not going to be cafeteria style food. There's no boxed food. Everything that is restaurant quality food, and that's really important to us. If kids are going to come for 6 days, how do we bring some comforts to them, right? And there's no such thing as good camp food per se. Every camp I've been to has some meals where you're like, oh my gosh. And Brian and I, that was important to us, is that if we're going to do this, we are going to make sure that kids not just have a positive wrestling experience, that they have a positive meal experience as well. So restaurant quality food at every meal.
Tell me where they end up sleeping. Where do they stay at night?
So Meridian School District allows us we'll go in the night before, and we move desks out of classrooms and kind of line them up in the hall. And our students, our athletes, will sleep in classrooms on site. They'll bring air mattresses, sleeping bags, whatever. But for 6 days, our kids, they don't leave our site. And so that's really important to us, is that we control the environment.
That's terrific. And it's all in-house. And so parents drop them. Do you allow parents to stay and watch?
Yeah, if parents want to stay and watch, they absolutely can come and watch. And we, as camp starts, we kind of post our schedule around the school, and what happens is a lot of kids will take pictures on their phone and send their parents, hey, here's the schedule. Here's a good time to come watch today. If they're local. Yeah, if they're local.
And morning session, afternoon session, what do you do for them in the evening? Do they have an evening session?
Yeah, we have evening sessions that are oftentimes led by myself or led by one of our counselors or someone from the community to come in and talk about what it means to be a champion, necessarily in life, in practice, in wrestling. We've had a number of our counselors last year. I know Colin Moore and Keyshawn Hayes talked about what it meant and what it required to be part of the Ohio State wrestling room in that community. I had Jake Locker one year come in and give a speech about, some setbacks that he had as an individual as far as choices that he made that didn't result in creating the best version of himself. And that was really cool for our kids to hear, as far as not a wrestling guy, but an athlete and a guy who tried to achieve the top of his profession, and some of the choices that he made that didn't help him. That was cool for our kids to hear.
That's very cool that you're able to get those kids access to those people that have great stories.
Right. Yeah.
Now, Brian also just mentioned something to me about how you have the counselors have dual teams.
Yeah. So we put the entire camp into whatever it is. I think it's 16 dual teams. So each team has 13, 14 kids on it. Brian's definitely the math guy of the two of us. We each have our strengths. And then while we're there, the dual team, you are assigned a college counselor. So you will wrestle probably 8 to 10 duels during the course of camp in 6 days. And you will have the same college coach your dual team all the way through. And then we have an all-star duel and a number of different things. So, for example, last year, my boys were paired up with Drake Foster. And Drake Foster last year was the 125-pounder for Wyoming. He just recently transferred. But they were coached as a dual team by Drake Foster all week. So they got relationships, and they got to build connections with him. I know a number of kids, Brian keeps telling me, a lot of our kids are still getting Instagram messages and Facebook messages from their college coaches that coach their dual team, asking how their season's gone. And so awesome. That's a really strong connection that happens organically. That's not us telling the college kids, hey, we want you to be best friends with these kids. Like I mentioned to you earlier this morning, we really, really pride ourselves on vetting these kids and bringing in really, really good people, not just good wrestlers.
That's so important because they're impressionable, and to get a text or a Facebook message or from a guy that's on the college scene that maybe wrestled in Pittsburgh last week, 2 weeks ago,
right?
That's a huge champion type can have an effect on a kid that can put him over, to get into that next level. And the reason why I say that is, when I was a sophomore, I was the varsity heavyweight, but I wasn't even going to turn out that year.
Right.
And I ended up, I took fourth in districts, fourth in districts, and it wasn't. No, I took fifth. Excuse me, I took fifth in districts. I was in alternates regionals as a sophomore.
Okay.
And then I went to state freestyle. Zabel took us to state freestyle, and I ended up taking fourth in state. And I was like, hey, you know what? I can do this. And then getting my butt kicked by a guy from town, that put me over the edge, and that confidence that you get, and getting a text from a guy that's on the college scene, that could give a kid some confidence to actually put them into a spot where they can make a difference in their lives.
And it's not just college kids. Us as coaches need that too. I know that when I've had a tough week and I reach out and I talk to Rob Cole or Damian Hahn or Gabe Dean, and they have the words, or John Trenge, and they say, hey, you're doing the right things, maybe try this or whatever, but keep working hard, and they have that encouraging message. I mean, that's beneficial for all of us, and yet you think about how influential you were as a high school athlete, how much that meant to you as a high school athlete. It still means stuff to me today, let alone as a high school kid.
It does. Well, hey, this has been great. Again, folks, if you have a high school kid, or if you have a junior high kid, what's the youngest age that you guys have?
You know, if you're going to come as an 8th grader, you should probably have had some contact with your high school coach, and definitely would want to have had some high school wrestling experience. The other thing that we encourage is if you are an 8th grader and you want to come to camp, reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. We'd encourage you to bring a training partner, because a lot of times the 8th graders are a little bit smaller than our high school boys and girls.
Cool. And that's great, great information. So July 21st to July 26th, Meridian High School. Go to their website. It's www.centercirclewrestling.com, right?
Com.
And
Yep.
then they're on Facebook. Center Circle Wrestling Camps is their Facebook. You're also on Instagram. And
yep.
Hey, Rob, you and Brian are doing a great thing. You're being a great dad. Your baby is so
Thanks,
beautiful, and I appreciate the time you gave us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having us, Jim. Really appreciate you.
This has been fun. No, I'm blessed to be able to know guys like you, and maybe this summer, if I'm still doing this, I can come over and maybe do a Wednesday show from camp.
Oh, we would love that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be a blast.
Yeah.
Give everybody.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Again, hey, you take care. Have a blessed rest of the week and some good time off, time well deserved off from for your spring break. And if there's anything I could do for you, you let me know and we'll get it done. How's that sound?
Thank you, Jim.
You're
Sounds
very
great.
welcome.
Love you, man.
All right, bud. See you, man. Love you too. Take care.
See you.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do that. All righty, folks. That was Rob Zabel, head coach at Squalicum. He is one of the directors of Center Circle Wrestling Camp. He and Brian Alfi do a great job, and I want to thank Rob for taking the time to be on the show with me today. I wanted to before I end here, I want to thank again our sponsors. Jay's Teriyaki was our first sponsor, and I want to make sure it be known that what a great service Jay's Teriyaki does to the community of Moses Lake. They have some of the best food that you can find here in the Columbia Basin. So if you're looking for a place to have dinner or lunch, go to Jay's Teriyaki there on the corner of Alder Street and Broadway. It's right as you it's right there on the corner of Alder and Broadway. And what great food, a great price. The people that go and eat there are motivated to post compliments, and I've just posted one of JJ's customers, happy customers in receiving good food and good service for a fair price. I want to thank JJ's for being on board here on the bench. Also, a new sponsor is my friends at Boost Mobile. Boost Mobile, they are a cell phone business here in town, and they have some great deals to offer everyone. And so if you head down to Boost Mobile, you can get in on those good deals. Right now, you can get 4 lines of unlimited data when you switch to Boost Mobile. It includes mobile hotspot per line, available in-store or online. So you can call or come in. They are at 301 East Broadway, Suite 3. And their hours, their store hours are Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7 p.m. And then on Sundays, they're open from noon until 5 p.m. But that is where you want to go to, if you want to improve your your cell phone coverage and service, go down to Boost Mobile, and they will take care. They will take care of your business there. And I want to thank Boost Mobile for being a new customer, a new sponsor here on the bench with Big Jim. I want to thank them for being willing to help us be able to bring you this show. And if you also want to get involved, you're more than welcome to get involved with us. Contact me here on the broadcast. I want to thank again Rob Zabel, head coach at Squalicum, and Brian Alfi, the head coach at Edmonds Woodway, for being a part of today's episode of On the Bench with Big Jim. We're trying to do our best in bringing you guys stories, interest stories, and hopefully we're able to do that. Again, Friday is this Friday, the 5th. You have an opportunity to see a bass fishing and walleye fishing seminar at Sportsman's Warehouse at 5:30. You can also go out to the ATEC building at the Big Bend Community College and get involved with the Building the Dream dinner and auction for Big Bend Community College Viking athletes. The Big Bend Viking Booster Club is putting on this dinner and auction. 5:30 is the silent auction. 6:30 they will have dinner. 7:15 they'll have a program where Chuck Yarbrough will auction off items that have been donated, and they have some great items, and I'll try and share some of those items on Friday's show, so you can kind of have an idea of what's going to be auctioned off Friday night. Friday's show, I'm going to have Joey Kriete from the Grant County Sheriff's Department and Juan Loera, former Moses Lake police officer, on the show. We're going to talk about what we can do as a community to show the respect to law enforcement and get people in our communities to change their attitude and do things that are right so that our officers can continue to keep us safe and keep themselves safe. And that's what we're going to do on Friday's show. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in today. Like and share the video, please, and we will see you all Friday morning. You take care, and we'll see you then.